If you know, you know.
It's TCA in stereo.
From the city to the lake, we make a noise.
It's TCA Summer Sessions. It's TCA Summer Sessions. It's TCA Summer Sessions. Let's go. It's TCA Summer Sessions. It's TCA Summer Sessions. It's TCA Summer Sessions. Let's go.
Away we go, good listener, on a brand new edition of the Tall Can Audio Podcast, another one of our TCA Summer Sessions, about to be joined by our friend Andrew Stoeten from the batflip.ca and the Blue Jays Happy Hour Podcast. As always, it's Matt Robinson along with you. It was a bit of an adventure, to be honest with you, to get to this one. About a half hour before I was supposed to connect with Stoeten, had a bit of a tech meltdown here. Tested everything we were going to need now that I'm here at the cottage. Ran it side by side with the setup we have in the studio. Got a scaled down version of the interface here. We got the big boy computer in the studio. Ran a test right beside it with the MacBook that I use on the go. Everything looked fine in the studio. Got here, it looked significantly less fine. Had to text Stoeten and ask if we could push back a little bit. Just to get going. A little tech interruption even halfway through that you won't hear. It's been cut out and deleted. But man, what a guy to put up with the fact that I'm still ironing out the wrinkles here a little bit in the early days of the TCA Summer Sessions from the cottage. And that was on top of doing his own podcast on the same day. I did mention there, the Blue Jays Happy Hour Podcast. The newest edition of that just dropped on Thursday. So when you're done listening to this conversation, I highly recommend that one if you want to go back and check that out. If you missed it on Wednesday, our last show here at tallcanaudio.com or the next one down on your podcast feed, Matt Scooby, an Ottawa broadcast legend, a guy who's been around for a while in the nation's capital doing CTV news, moving on to other things, headed down to the Big Smoke. We had a deep dive with him. We were calling it our not mine, hopefully, his Ottawa exit interview. That one was a lot of fun. We've been getting some great feedback on it. If you missed it, go back and check that one out again when you're finished here. Coming up on Monday, I'll still be here at the lake, and so our friend Michaela Schreider has been kind enough to step in and co-host the Monday morning show. We'll see. I can't tell you what that one's going to be about. We don't know what's in the news yet, right? You guys know how the Monday show works. That's always kind of sports news and whatever's gone on. So we'll get into that with her on Monday, whatever that looks like. Appreciate her stepping up as always. And next Wednesday, July 23rd, a deep dive with Ian Mendez, formerly of Sportsnet, formerly of TSN 1200, formerly of The Athletic, currently of the Ottawa Senators. Lots to get to with him. I've got a couple of different things more than a couple of different things to get to with him, including what made you join the dark side. You guys can decide for yourself when a guy like me says dark side, whether that means leaving the media and joining a pro team or joining the Ottawa Senators in particular. That'll be fun. Looking forward to getting that one out there for you and letting you hear everything Ian Mendez had to say. That'll be next Wednesday, July 23rd. Also next week, you're going to hear from Steve Bunda. Finally, we're going to be able to get that done. You guys know Bunda. Guy's a beaut. Never turns us down. Is always willing to do the show. And yet, the last two times we've tried to do it, it's been cursed. It was the time we posted on our Instagram. He sent me a photo. Giant tree branch crashed through his hydro wires. That makes it difficult to do much, technologically speaking, in terms of co-hosting a podcast. The time after that, someone tried to break into his car, fucked up the electronics of the whole system. These modern cars, a lot of conveniences, a lot of things that make life really nice. And yet, sometimes kind of a headache that a simple mechanic can't fix anymore. Now you need a computer technician. So it's been difficult here. Bunda and I have been joking. We're a little cursed. I was going to say I'm going to promise. I'm going to promise to try really hard to get Bunda back on the show. I can't promise Bunda will be on the show. The last two times I've done that, it has ended poorly. But that is the goal. So lots of good stuff up right now on the feed. No reason to drag this out any longer. Let's get right into it and talk some Blue Jays with our buddy Andrew Stoeten from batflip.ca and the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast.
It's time to take a holiday, shut it down and get away. All my friends are ready to play, and we're headed to the lake. Now I know what you came here for, good times and nothing more. We're walking out that door and headed to the lake. It's a talking summer, baby. Sports talk and we're sipping on craft beer. You can find us chilling on the lakefront. We can take it to the water.
As promised, let's bring him back in. Andrew Stoeten is back from the batflip.ca, the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast. Man, it's been a bit of an adventure for us both to get here. Some mutual time changes, some tech issues. Glad you're here. Glad you made the time. Glad we were able to get it done. Appreciate it, man. How have you been?
I've been all right. Yeah. No, happy to be here. Happy to not be dealing with my own podcast tech stuff.
There's some news on your tech there, the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast, which I'm a loyal listener to, you and
thank you so much.
Nick Ashbourne. But there's a new chapter or an addition to it, man. What's going on?
Yeah, we've moved it to. We haven't moved it to Patreon, but we've started a Patreon. We're doing that thing. I believe I wrote. We've leapt into the 2010s when I announced it. But yeah, we're doing weekly bonus content and ad-free shows on Patreon for those who can and are interested in supporting us, and leaving everything else alone so anybody can listen to it in the exact same way they're used to. So maybe leaving money on the table by not like forcing people one way or another, but that's sort of that's how we believe things should go.
Well, this is it, right? You made it pretty clear.
It's been good
in the post, right? That it's if you're listening to it on Spotify or Apple or wherever you are, your world doesn't have to change, but there's now more out there for you if you want more, right? And
I had to do that. I did that because like we moved from I hosted it at Substack. This is getting a little too under the hood, but I hosted it at Substack. We got given like this company called Colin got a bunch of like venture capital money and was Colin, offered us like way too much. It was not worth their while to come over there, but that meant breaking our RSS feed and making everybody re-sign up to get to another version, and you lose momentum, you lose people over that way, and then we did it again because we moved back, and now we've moved. We were doing stuff with the Nation Network where we're now like, no, let's bring it all in-house. Let's not worry about letting other people do sales for us, get a million gambling ads on there. I mean, people may see gambling ads because the service we're using is programmatic, and I suspect a lot of that's out there.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, we were very thrilled to be able to make a change that's going to be positive for us without disrupting anybody's service because we hated having to do that too. But like I say, Colin just... Some venture capitalist lost a bundle on that, I think.
It seemed like an okay idea. It was around the same time. I remember Clubhouse was a thing, like an audio social media thing. And again, you're like, it's worth a shot, I guess. But these things sometimes aren't quite ready for prime time. But
no.
But you and Nick have always been very kind to this show. And honestly, half the reason I like having you guys on is you're far more inside the game than I am with your understanding, and yet able to distill it into a way that my simple little brain can understand. So highly recommend the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast and the new Patreon feed, which I guess is patreon.com/BJHH. Do I have that right?
Yeah. Yes, you do. I say it like that because I'm like, fewer letters. It does not roll off the tongue. And then I already had the Patreon all set up when I realized this, and you can't change it back. I would have had to like re-sign. I'm like,
well, I see it all the time in the subject lines when you're the Substack email comes out that there's a new episode of the podcast, and like a 14-year-old, I still snicker and giggle. And who knows, man, with that kind of handle, who knows you might get some extra traffic stumbling across the Patreon, right?
That's not the objective, but,
no. Up next,
but that is the
OnlyFans for the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast coming soon. Look, we're coming off the All Star break. I was maybe less engaged in it this year than I ever thought, or than I ever have been in my life, and that's, there's been years where I've been kind of up and down on it. I do typically kind of enjoy the home run derby. And even this year, I turned that on. I don't know. I was watching on Sportsnet. I don't know how much of it you caught. I don't know if we were getting, like, sometimes they do a separate international feed. I found the broadcast irritating, and it just sort of killed my enthusiasm for even the game. I think I watched maybe I saw Kirky come in and get a hit. So I caught a couple innings of the game. Does this thing still do anything for you, or is it just for you a nice time to unplug for 4 days around the, theoretically unplug when you're not trying to start a new venture? Do you still get into it at all?
No. It is the latter. No, I unplug. No shade to the All Star game. I've probably thrown shade at it in years past, but many, many years ago. It's great if you're a kid, and if you're into it, it's cool. Hey,
sure.
Get into it. People had a lot of fun with the home run derby to end it, the swing off.
Yep.
The home run derby is always fun, though. Yeah, the irritating broadcast is something that I certainly heard a lot of people talk about, but I did not tune in once. I can't remember the last time I tuned into a home run derby. Maybe that makes me a bad fan, but it's
well, as someone writing and covering the game every day like you are throughout the summer, like, it does seem like a nice 4-day break to step away, and I don't need to care about this little exhibition thing in the middle. It sort of makes sense, I suppose.
But it does mean that I can't tell you what happened in the All-Star game.
No.
I think the NL won.
Yeah, they had a big lead, and then there was a comeback, and then there was a swing off, and I forget what happened in that swing off because I didn't see it. But I do kind of, your point there about it, maybe still being good for kids, like, that's always been the talk for most of these All-Star games. Like, the Pro Bowl has always been a disaster. The NHL All-Star game is now like a series of 3-on-3 games, and it's still not compelling at all. The NBA All-Star game this year took more flack than it ever had, based on what I was reading. Is it just, like, are we over this and we don't want to do it anymore? Do you still think it's worthwhile for the market that's hosting it and for kids? Like, are we just too old and cynical, or are we maybe kind of past the point where this is worth doing?
I mean, I'm not speaking for myself, obviously, but I think the baseball one is on a different level than those, because
that was always the talk, right? You could still
it's not
have
a
a decent
contact
game.
sport. Like the NBA guys, nobody wants to play defense in the other ones, and it's like kind of baseball. You're like, wow, the ball's hit to me. When I'm not going to loaf it here. Like, the thing about it is really on the pitching side, and it's like everybody, the rosters are so big, and everybody gets their inning, or maybe a little bit more than that. So you're able to, because it's the 4-day break, and then you have the 5-man rotation. You can make it so a guy is pitching on his day, like his day to throw, or where you don't really feel like it's not like it's the World Baseball Classic, which maybe it should be. Maybe the World Baseball Classic should be happening at this time, which is a hobby horse of mine. But
that was, I think, what got into the NBA's craw this year was it was up against the 4 nations that the NHL ran, which, to its credit, went better than most people expected. Like, athletes did care, and it was fun. It caught some attention, and now all of a sudden we're looking at an NBA All-Star game going, why don't you do what they do? Well, the NHL kind of fell ass backwards into this. It wasn't some brilliant planning, but you're right. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I know, and I think like the NHL did the North America versus the world a long time ago too, right? And then that kind of ran out of juice, and which is fine, which is what it is. It's a marketing event. It's an event for kids. It's an event for the city. It's something that is not necessarily about the person who sits there biting their nails 162 games in a year. There's more than that, and I can appreciate that, and if I didn't watch so many baseball games otherwise, I would probably get more into it.
Sure,
but yeah, no, the international stuff, anything to compel people to actually care, I think is the thing. But like, and that's what baseball's done too with the home field advantage in the World Series, which is gimmicky, but also I don't know. How is it any worse than just alternating that every year, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
and there's always some fun
shade.
to come out of it. Like you probably at least saw there was video making its way around social media of the half inning where Clayton Kershaw was mic'd up, and
Sure.
that was kind of, is it worth the millions of dollars it costs to host the thing and the break in the series? What there was a couple of years ago, we saw Alek Manoah, the same thing, mic'd up at the All Star. Like little moments like that are kind of fun and are good, as you said, for marketing. But yeah, as a competitive product, it's
It doesn't feel like Ohtani versus Trout with the World Baseball Classic on
the
the line.
dream
Like
final,
people
the
really
dream
do
ending
seem
to that. That was
care.
fantastic. Yeah,
it was. And the reason that's more contentious, of course, is because you want guys to actually be making long starts. You want them to maybe pitch a few times in a few days. I do feel that there's probably a way to use, minor leaguers and amateurs or whatever, non-big league, non-26-man roster guys to play out most of the WBC somewhere in the background that nobody notices, and then do a little mini tournament over All-Star Weekend. I would love to see, that kind of concept explored, but I don't think it's running out of enough of steam in the same way that. The Pro Bowl's never been good.
No,
it's like that. Like that's been a joke for 40 years, as far as I'm concerned, and that's only because I only became conscious of the world around that.
That's what I'm kind of struggling with too. Like the NHL All-Star Game has always been no defense, no real hitting, but lots of skill back in the day, and then we moved to the 3-on-3 thing, and I don't know if it was just, like I said, I got old and cynical, or it got worse. But the basketball one stands out to me. Like, it used to seem to mean something back in the 90s when Jordan would be going up against Ewing or whatever was going on there, right? And that one has obviously lost a ton of steam. You're right, the Pro Bowl was always terrible. Baseballs was always kind of held a level above, like you said, as a non-contact sport. And maybe part of what's lessened this for me is obviously the interleague play, right? To sit down and watch the AL versus the NL. This was, a pitcher who, oh man, I wonder what that guy's what does Roger Clemens versus Barry Bonds look like, right? Like we don't get to see that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now we do. And so maybe that's taken some of the luster away. Or like I said, maybe I've just gotten old and don't care about things the way I used to.
Could be a combination of both, honestly.
Yeah. You had a great piece up at the batflip.ca kind of diving into where we're at with Vladdy here in mid-July 2025. And it was clear there had been a pile of research done there, a lot of numbers, a lot of different things you had dug into to try and figure out how much of this is the small sample size of July, where he has clearly struggled, and you pointed out rightfully that this is all sort of come, maybe related, maybe not, but since he got hit on the forearm there in late June, trying to figure out what was noise, what's small sample size, what's fair to, how much of it is just perception after signing the big contract at the beginning of the year, A lot of that is, as I said a few minutes ago about the show that you and Nick do, you do a nice job of understanding a lot of things and a lot of these numbers that not all of us do, and then distilling it in a way that is more easily understandable. Can you kind of take us inside that piece and just sort of where you landed on what's going on with Vlad, and whether, fans are right to be a little frustrated, or whether it's too soon, it's recency bias with the bad July? Like, where are we at with Vlad right now?
No, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of ways that can go. I mean, and that's really what the piece was. It was just me pulling at threads and being like, okay, well, here, just trying to find out for myself what I think is going on. And I don't have a great necessarily idea, but where I landed was, yeah, there's so much of the stuff that is making people frustrated is small sample size. The high leverage stuff, the July stuff. Mm-hmm. But he's not hitting. He's like on pace for 20 home runs. Like he's not hitting home runs the way that he should, which is really interesting, I think. And this is part of, I brought this into the piece because George Springer has done the thing that we wanted, the old man with diminishing skills to do, like the guy with the great eye who isn't necessarily going to be the complete hitter as he gets into his mid or upper 30s, but you can still have you can maximize his value to you as a hitter, as a slugger, by trading a little bit of his eye for just trying to pull the ball in the air and get it over the fence. And that's something we've heard about with Vlad for a very long time. And I don't know what they're trying to do with Vlad. I don't know if they're working on anything or if he's just got his timing wrong. I saw a tweet from Joe Siddle, who's great at, obviously at this kind of stuff, looking at, the position of his bat when he loads up to take a swing and seeing that there's something mechanical off there. Joe's always got a great eye for mechanical stuff. Obviously so much more expertise than I do in anything remotely like that. And yeah, there could be a timing issue because I looked at a number of things, like I say, because I was just pulling on threads, and you look at the attack direction, because there's all sorts of new tools on Baseball Savant, which is basically just like the housing, where Statcast data is housed and sort of filtered or they take the reams and reams, the terabytes of data that each game produces and put it into, show you the most sort of relevant stuff, and always coming up with new stuff. Like since the middle of 2023, we have all the bat speed, bat tracking stuff, and it's not just about the swing speed, but like one of them is attack angle, which is about where the sweet spot of the bat is pointed at the point of intercept of the ball, or where the bat and the ball pass, even if a guy misses.
Even if you missed it, yeah.
Yeah, and so Vladdy's been trending towards pulling the ball, or trending towards attacking the ball towards putting it to the pull side, which in theory, in a vacuum, people would look at that and be like, oh, Vlad should be pulling the ball more, pull the ball in the air, get the ball over the fence, loft it. He's got so much strength. That would be the ideal version of Vlad. And I probably would, I'd probably have to put myself in that camp, even though he is very much not that guy, and a if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of guy, which is also why I don't know if I necessarily believe not the conclusions that I came to, or the conclusions where there's enough track record here that he's going to be fine and the home runs will come, and I'm actually intrigued by some of the stuff we're seeing there. But the fact that he's pulling the ball, yes, but also that is the attack direction is a measure of not necessarily his intent, but like just his timing, right? So it could be that he's just ahead, he's out in front of pitches,
right?
Which we also see in another chart that I included in the piece, which is bat speed, which has been really interesting, because the average bat speed, or like where his bat speed is at, even though it's already elite, is really ticking up. And lately, even though he's been going poorly, his swings have been really hard, and it's I don't know what to make of that necessarily. Like, is he compensating for something? Is he swinging harder for a reason? Is that just the average? And this was something that I addressed in it, is maybe the bat speed average is going up because of some of the stuff we hear with Springer, with David Popkins, the new hitting coach, about trying to not swing when you can't get off your A swing, and being okay about, falling behind in the count and taking borderline pitches, and really honing in on getting your best swing off at a pitch over the heart of the plate where you can do damage, which is, I think you probably talked to like 29 other hitting coaches and they'd say something similar to that.
Sure.
But we have seen, and I bring that up in the piece too, we see like indicators of, Jays players buying in on that and having success with that. So I do kind of wonder, maybe Vlad's getting into that sort of frame of mind and buying in on that, and it's just not working. But that was sort of I hope this is the conclusion that we can come to here, and that it does, mean for the future that we'll see a little more of that George Springerness to him, a little more of that willingness to not settle for, putting the ball in play, going the other way, but really to focus on hammering the ball to the pull side and putting it over the fence if you possibly can. I don't know. But I think that is certainly a possibility with Vlad, and I think he's just such an excellent hitter and athlete in that aspect, that something's going to click, something's going to make a lot of people forget about being cranky about him recently. Though I think they're also completely well within their rights to be scratching their heads about it. The contract obviously complicates things. Complicates how people think about him.
Yeah,
which I don't think you can. I mean, it's just like that's not.
Well, you and I talked on the show a couple times about there's a reasonable chance that from the moment, and we at the time didn't know what the number was going to be, but that from the moment this was signed, it was never going to be a great financial investment in terms of what the performance you get on the field. Not to say it was going to be a bust or he was not a good player or anything like that, but that this was going to a certain level was more about this franchise showing they're serious, staying involved, kind of committing themselves to winning. And so, after the number, and you can decide for yourself, good listener, what you think he was worth on a long-term deal, whether it was 3 or 350 or 4, whatever. Once you get to 5, that number has to be thrown away as that was just the price of keeping him around, right? And locking him in. So it's dangerous to get tied up in the number, but he's always been a little bit of a different kind of guy. Like we've seen lots of times where he's still smashing the ball, but right into the ground, right? And you can tell just a little tweak here, it sort of feels like, and we're going to be back to line drives and stuff. I do wonder how much of the frustration, which as you said is warranted. He is your best player regardless of what he's making. When it's not going right, it gets really easy now to point at that contract, and it's not unfair, but it's also not the whole story, right? Like now he's a $500 million player. All of a sudden this year he's going to be back to 40 home runs like he did in 21, or it doesn't work that way, right? Like
no, it doesn't. But they have made a commitment to him, and they could have not done that and tried to move that money elsewhere. Yeah, and I think they probably did with Ohtani and Juan Soto, and
gave it a shot.
We'd be having a different conversation about Vlad. He'd be in the same boat as Bo in terms of being in his walk year. Had they maybe succeeded on those fronts.
And now you want to talk about fan crankiness.
But also, I kind of feel like for me, it's like grousing about $500 million or what, $300 million for the renovation. They should have only got that renovation done for $200 million. It's like, no, he's just sort of part of the furniture now. It's right. It can't be felt. It can't be compared to other contracts and what other people are making, even though it can and will be. It's just that was the cost of doing business to like keep this competitive window. There was just so many bigger things about getting him signed for this long-term contract than
it was always, man. For me, what it said to me was I exhaled because I went, okay, well, regardless of what happens this year, we're not going off a cliff. Next year. They have shown they are now pot committed to try and stay competitive, and that mattered to me because we were staring down a place where if Vlad leaves and Bo leaves and Bassett's a year away and whatever, things could have got real dark real fast, and they could have been kind of sending some signals, and they sent the opposite signal. We have spent this money, which means we are obviously going to try and continue to contend here.
Yeah, and I mean, those dark vibes were in the background of every conversation about the big picture of this team for the last 2-3 years, really. Rogers probably could have waited until he was going a little bit better to announce the price hikes. Because I haven't seen any. I don't want to straw man. I haven't seen anybody directly correlating the two, but obviously that contract's getting paid for somehow, but the franchise equity, that's not really real, but it is going to make people, put a target on a guy making that kind of money who is a very good or a great not elite player. And that's sort of what he has been, and he has more in him, and he's still young, and all of that, which was true before they did this deal. Yep. I just feel like it's tough to.
The price hikes, man.
He just got really good business advice and had a great year when that was the most opportune for him, and can't blame him for that, and I can't blame Rogers for signing him to that deal. I also, for me, think about it in terms of like Mark Shapiro only 2-3 years ago talking about, I don't think we'll ever dismissing it as outlandish that they would even maybe bump up against the first competitive balance tax, and that's completely changed. So if you think about where the payroll ceiling for the Blue Jays was a couple years ago to where it is, we see it is now. Like Vlad's always going to be playing in that stratosphere above where we ever thought was possible anyway. So that it's like to me, it honestly, to say it doesn't matter is not quite right, because obviously it's a ton of money and it does matter. But I just think you have to view it differently to other contracts, and I still feel like credit to Rogers for doing it, which I'm not unhappy about having to say credit to Rogers ever, but but no, he is a confounding guy, and you would love to see you would love to feel like it's different when Aaron Judge comes to the plate than when Vlad comes to the plate, and
Sure.
you feel like the amount of money Vlad's making, that it should be similar.
Yes.
and it's simply not. But that is just those are market forces more than anything to do with baseball, and it's.
I think
like
a lot
you
of
say,
Toronto
Vlad without-
fans, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
A lot of Toronto fans get the hockey brain where there's a cap. And so you have a reason. And look, the competitive balance tax is sort of a cap, but not really when you've got an owner that's shown he's willing to blow through it, at least for now. Mm-hmm. And you kind of get tied up on like, oh man, if you give Mitch this and then that's that, and you can't build a good team. In this case, it's almost back to like, yeah, but it's not your money. Like in baseball, there is no cap. If they want to give him $500 million, just clap and be happy he's staying, right? Like it's not quite the same, but I think we kind of get tangled up in the that number. Can they still do this? And yeah, they can. Like your Rogers bill every month, you're helping. You can see that they can afford to. You mentioned some of the price hikes here. We did see, it was a week or two ago, the Sportsnet Plus subscription going up 30% year over year. And look, I don't know who makes these decisions in terms of marketing when you just announce it, how you go about it. But this comes on the heels of the huge new NHL contract and the $500 million for Vlad and the dome renovations and everything that's gone on there. Good or bad business, in your opinion, to announce this? At the time, I believe they had just wrapped up the 10-game win streak. We hadn't yet gone 3-3 on the road, which really is neither here nor there. But everyone's excited about your team. You're the only game in town in the summer. Now's the time to pounce and raise our prices, because now's the time where we're going to get some extra people, wanting to jump in, who maybe were sort of fed up with the Jays but see them in first and now they'll subscribe. Or major buzzkill vibes here. Like at a time when you could be raking in all these new fans, you go, yeah, we're actually going to choose this moment to screw you just a little bit harder. Good or bad business timing-wise in your mind?
I mean, the cynical. If I were a businessman, I would say it's good. It's good timing. I hate it, obviously. Yeah. I mean, but I also would never. There's no good time to raise prices to watch a baseball team by 30% when it's already exorbitant. But yeah, I mean, I think you look at the way things work. I'm thinking about even my podcast, I think it was like 5 or 6. We like the playoffs, around playoff time in 2016, 2015. We were getting like 5 times more, maybe 10 times the listenership that we did.
Wow.
Regularly. Like that is palpable. We don't know if the Blue Jays are going to get there. I don't know what it would look like this year after the failures of 2022 and 2023 and 15 and 16, especially 15, were such a special time that obviously. Really reignited the fan base in a way that I don't think you could ever see again, really, or it will take a very long time before. Hopefully, that's never necessary. But just thinking about it in that very small, very just my personal experience, like it's going to drive subscriptions even at that price. Yeah. And I think for the number of people, and I hate to say it, but I think for the number of people. Who are going to say, well, screw this, I can find this on, say site, whichever site you want to name here, whichever your favorite pirate site is. I have a couple. I like
LimeWire.
Right. Eurostreams or something.
Sure.
But the number of people that will actually end up doing the thing and cutting the cord is probably not as big as the number of people who are going to be like, man, I want to watch this team every night. That's the business model, really.
Yeah.
For Rogers. So to hate on them is just to hate capitalism, and you know what? Maybe that's a conversation worth having, but maybe not here.
Sure. As we sit here right now, the Jays are firing back up on Friday night against the Giants, and they're still in first place. And I wonder, I don't want to have the necessarily the Michael K conversation and whatever. Do they feel like a real first place team and this and that? The numbers and the record and everything says they are in first place. I have sort of come around to, like, I went into this season, you and I probably talked about it, wanting to enjoy the season. Part of that was fear of that it may be the last competitive season for a while. Obviously, that part of it has gone away a little. But
when they signed the Vlad contract.
This is it, yes, yeah. and committed themselves to more good years. So that fear has sort of gone away, but my still objective, opinion was that this team was probably, good enough to be a few games above 500, sort of hang around in the wild card fight. I did not see a first place run in them, but you win 10 in a row and you do it sweeping the first place team for 4 games as part of it. All of a sudden, that is on the table. We're getting to the deadline, and I'm just sort of curious, does this first place run feel legit? Like, obviously, they have put themselves in the mix solidly to the point where if they missed the playoffs now, it would be hugely disappointing. I'm not certain I'm at a point now where I've talked myself into this needs to be a division-winning team. Like, I still think they're a playoff team, and I should be happy with that, trying to be objective about it. Based on what you've seen over the last little bit, have they established themselves to be, a legit division contender, or was that kind of the peak? Everybody gets hot for a little while. They did it at the right time against the right opponents, and they may sag here a little bit. Sort of where are you at with where they sit in the standings right now?
I mean, yeah, they have positioned themselves extremely well. It's been fortuitous, absolutely. I think on true talent, they are a little bit playing above their heads right now. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that can't regress is the number of wins they've already banked.
That's right.
Right?
They're in your pocket now.
And they've done so in such a clear way. We're now, we're just a couple weeks out from the trade deadline. They're in first place. Like there is all of the incentive.
Forced management's hand here.
Yeah, to do something. And I mean, I don't think they're against their will. I mean, I think this is the position that you want to be in.
Of course.
This is a phase of the season where, if you're in this spot, maybe you don't have the best roster in terms of true talent. It will get better when Dalton Varsho and Anthony Santander get back, mm-hmm. when Jimmy Garcia gets back, when there is a litany of guys on the injured list, which is part of why it's been so remarkable. They did a lot without Scherzer, they did a lot without Andres Jimenez.
Yep.
It's been a crazy run that has not felt. I don't understand why they're this good or why they have played this well. And I don't think anybody should. If somebody thinks that they do understand it, I think they're lying to you. But like I say, Nathan Lucas can regress. Ernie Clement can regress. Miles Straw can regress. Some of the contributions, even Springer, Addison Barger, guys like that. But those wins aren't going away. No. They're still in the win column, and they have a couple weeks where it makes all of the sense in the world to make this team as good as possible to combat that the whatever potential regression there is. And
Mark Shapiro's last year of his contract, I wonder if he has to go full 2015 AA here, which I believe he didn't love at the time that he came in.
I don't know that he needs to at this point, honestly. I don't know where Edward Rogers is at, per se.
Mar-a-Lago.
He's certainly, well, yes, I guess that.
Most likely.
Yeah. Not sure about some of his other decisions, but I'm not a Raptors man, so
sure.
So I'll save that to the experts. But yeah, I think we don't need to get into the weeds of Shapiro and Atkins and whether they stick around or not. It's more about focused on I don't see a 2015 thing from him, but I think they're also so well positioned because they actually have a prospect pipeline now, which is a completely different thing.
Seemingly out of nowhere. Like, they didn't have it in the winter, and now they do. It kind of feels like. Yeah,
they've done a really, really good job. There have been a lot of good stories, and also just having all those guys come back from their the Tommy Johns, basically. Sure. They had a whole pitching staff go down, which now there's just more volume of guys, and even though it's not elite guys, they're well positioned to be clear buyers.
Yeah,
I think it's as well as the season could have possibly worked out to this point, honestly, aside from Santander being not what you hoped for in at all.
Well, the thing that keeps sticking in my head with him is, okay, is the slow start story he doesn't like the cold weather, or is there something in his game that ramps, like, let's say, just optimistically speaking, he's good to go and back in the lineup on August 10th, August 15th, something like that. do we have to talk about his slow start again for a couple of weeks, like a full month, like it was going to be in April? Or like, I don't know how much to expect out of that guy now. And maybe this takes me to the next thing I wanted to ask you about. Like, you mentioned some names there of guys who can regress and who may regress. And I'm sort of curious what that would do to your approach at the deadline. I certainly think when you're in first place and you're in contention to win the division, and look, the Yankees have been ravaged by injuries themselves and have now DFA'd LeMahieu. Like, it's there. It's on the table for you. So I'm not suggesting that none of this is real and they should hold their cards close to their vest or anything like that. But what would the approach be? Because are you certain that Santander is going to come back and give you something? Are you certain at 35 Springer is going to do this all year? Are we certain Clement is this good in a platoon role? Like, how much are some of these guys going to regress? How real is some of this? As you said, the wins are all real, but how you would approach the deadline is fascinating to me, because there seems to be a lot of guys playing as well as they've ever played. And if you think all of that is real, then you go address some things in some areas that aren't working out well for you. But if you're worried some of that's going to fall off and maybe you do need an upgrade on a Clement or just to pick a name, right? Like, what would you do how much of this is hot and how much of it is real, and how would that impact what you're doing at the deadline in terms of what you're looking for?
It's a very difficult question, obviously. I think, the defense is real. The guys who are really, and that's also a concern about Santander. I like George Springer as a DH better than as an outfielder. I like Santander better as a DH than as an outfielder. And
right.
Part of what's been so, they've been running Joey Loperfido or Davis Schneider. Like, it's not like their outfield defense is unassailable, but. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing, and if I know anything about Ross Atkins, he's going to find a way to disappoint people and end up talking about how they didn't compromise their defense by going out and adding like crazy bats at the deadline. I think bats are always going to be hard to find anyway. Good rental bats or even guys with term, and so honestly, even with the potential for regression, I think they do have like a pretty. They have good depth, and I think you can believe in, they're getting more out of Bo Bichette. You can believe in getting more out of Vlad. You can believe in getting more out of Santander. Varsho, certainly, for a long time. In the spring especially, like, he was going to be a guy who could contribute with the bat more than we've seen, and sort of more to the level that was expected when he was first acquired.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I think in terms of adding offense, it's really, finding the right piece to fit the puzzle, as opposed to, finding a cornerstone piece. I mean, and partly that's because Addison Barger has been so good. And I think that's a guy, it's not like the season's riding on him, but I think, if he's real, and I've always been inclined, because he's got the tools, because he just hits the ball so hard, and we're seeing, the improvements in terms of the plate discipline and the approach. Just the way that he's put that together, it does feel like it's real, and that can be a thing, as long as the walks and the two strike approach and all that stuff stays the way that it is. And that's a thing that's kind of a little more sticky than you have batted balls and like balls on play and stuff like that. The sticky stuff is that he hits it hard, and if he is actually taking his walks and not striking out 30% of the time, and he hasn't been doing that. So I'm very encouraged by that, and I suspect the Blue Jays are as well. I think he's a real piece, and maybe that will be the downfall of my opinion here and of the Blue Jays, though. No, he couldn't be the downfall. Like, if the Blue Jays have a downfall, it will be about Vlad not doing Vlad things, Bo not doing both things. But also, I think that kind of lends itself well to what's going to be available at the deadline anyway, which is, their bullpen has really saved them. Their bullpen was so good during this stretch. Even if you look at, it's been up and down. I think they're top 10 in ERA. They have some good, not great numbers as a unit, but they've been deployed well. You've seen these breakouts from Braden Fisher and Brendan Little, and Mason Fluharty's back down now, but he's not good. Yariel Rodriguez has been ridiculous.
That's a great story,
since he's moved into that role. And Garcia's out right now. And then you add one really good and one good arm to that bullpen. It's going to squeeze a Tommy Nance out, I suppose, which, that's okay. Or a Robinson Pena. But
are you worried about Hoffman? Like, what you've no doubt dug deeper into this than I have, but like, it's not the right statistic to use. I'm aware that when your closer's ERA is pushing up on 5 or whatever, like you start to get, ooh, like
It is, yeah.
Are you worried about him?
I'm not yet, which is weird because it seems like there's been a lot of evidence of him not being that guy. He's definitely underperformed, but like, and this is going back. I remember, going back to May or whatever, looking at some of the home runs that he's given up were on really good pitches or pitches that it just shouldn't have been a home run. Just even if it wasn't a good pitcher's pitch, it was like a mistake in an area where it's like, well, how did that guy hit that out?
Sure.
Like, I think there's a lot of flukiness in what's happened with Hoffman, and I feel that there's still all of the chances in the world for it to coalesce into more of the guy that we saw in April. Mm-hmm. But my level of confidence on that opinion being true does continue to erode every time. It is
sort of another question mark at the deadline, right? Like, if he's good, then that's great. If he's not going to be, then all of a sudden you're looking for a slightly different type of reliever, right? That big back end of the bullpen.
I mean, that couldn't hurt anyway. But
sure.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
But we're not going to be able to get everything we need out of this. One of the names that we haven't talked a lot about here in terms of what's real and are there question marks and is Max Scherzer. And he's been really fun to watch in the rotation, but the thumb continues to be a story. Now, I think the last time we saw him, he got up to like 90 pitches, so that's encouraging, but maybe willing to go a little further knowing the break was coming and he was going to get a little rest. If you were looking for a starting arm, and maybe, it's no more complicated, you can just say that's not what you're looking for, but if you were going to make a big swing, is there a name out there? We all kind of get our hopes up and look at this guy or look at that guy. Have you done any kind of looking around to say, if this guy is available and kind of falls out, I think that's a name that maybe is a good number 2 even, or are you looking more back end? Are we sure about Eric Lauer, right? Like, there's a lot of questions there too, man. Is there a name or two that you would be looking at as saying, this isn't a sell the farm, an ace, for all time kind of thing, but a good guy who would fit in and start playoff games for you?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, to be perfectly honest with you. I do kind of believe in Eric Lauer, maybe more than I should, even though that's sort of a house of cards waiting to implode, not unlike a Bowden Francis.
Right.
But I do think, in terms of, I haven't done a ton of thinking so far about the specific names. I leave that to Benny Fresh, to Ben Nicholson Smith.
He's been killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just his wheel. He started at MLB Trade Rumors, and that's just his wheelhouse. He's so good at that.
I actually had no idea that was his baby. That he.
Well,
I'm just
he
learning
didn't
this for the
begin,
first moment.
but he began his. I don't know what he was writing about or where he was writing before that, but that's where I first encountered it.
Okay,
like, a Toronto guy writing for MLB.
Hey.
I'd worked for them for about a minute once, actually, as well. I don't know if Ben was there at the same time. This is going back to like 2008.
I thought you had said he started MLB Trade. He started at MLB.
No disrespect to Tim Dirks.
Okay, slightly different, but still cool.
But he was there for a long time before ending up at Sportsnet, and so that is his wheelhouse. I love those pieces where he's like, okay, here are 68 names to consider.
And not just shit he's thrown at the wall. It's like, here's why, and here's why they might sell, and here's why he would fit. Like, the context he's putting on these articles the last couple of weeks has been fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Legend in his own time. Ben, we love him. For me, I don't know that it's necessary to get. The bottom could drop out of Max Scherzer at any moment, which does make this a little scary. And I suppose Eric Lauer and I suppose Alek Manoah may not also be able to offer too much depth. So maybe a depth starter is on the table for them. I guess it probably should, in terms of like the basket of things that they want to get, like their best case scenarios. But I don't know that you really push in that hard just for a depth starter for when you have a rotation that is just so sort of flat as theirs is. There's the Bassett and Barrios and Gausman. They log innings.
Yep.
They get results, but they're good, not great, and they're certainly not frontline guys.
Isn't that the idea that this group is maybe a little bit flat and doesn't have that high? Like, would you be comfortable going into a division series, God willing?
I'd be comfortable just doing that.
Yeah. Anything that happens once I get there, I'm fine with. Yeah,
A
no.
little bit.
With these three guys, like I like all of these guys, but I don't even know that there's somebody out there that would be like this ace that you. But I don't know. I'm interested in what it would cost to get DeGrom. I'd like to have that conversation, right? Like I don't know. There seems to be some talk about Gallen. I don't know.
No, DeGrom is really obviously an interesting one to me, as in as much as I do think about those sorts of things.
Sure.
You want. It's interesting because obviously there's an instinct, and like Ross Atkins obviously will succumb sometimes to being a little too conservative. Or I think a lot of that time is like the affect. He sounds like he's conservative, but also he'll go into a season where his only acquisitions were Kevin Kiermaier and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Justin Turner. Like that's not risk averse. That is itself a risk.
Yeah.
Joe Ryan is the name that a lot of people will come up with, which is and I. The thing is, it is like, when will you get an opportunity like this again? When will you be leading the American League? They haven't done this in so many years. It's such a unique opportunity, and it is, and this is sort of the structure of baseball. And a lot of times, Jays fans and myself included have kind of looked at it from the other way, where it's like, oh, there's all this mushy middle. It doesn't really incentivize you to do anything, but just like try to for a wild card spot and maybe not try too hard. But the Jays are in that position where it's like, you could skip the first round. You could go straight to the Division Series.
Well, the Rays have got 2/3 of their games remaining on the road now because of their situation. We talked about the Yankees being beat up. Like, it's there for you. Like, maybe this is an opportunity, and you're seeing more and more talk, and it's all totally fair over the last few days. How many prospects that Ross has dealt away do you really feel like you're missing right now? Like,
I would say
should have
zero,
kept right. And so for as much as he irritates people, he's sort of earned the trust here to, if he sees a big fish out there, I'm willing to let him swing for it, like to mix up analogies.
But I mean, also the Gabriel Moreno guys. I don't want to offend anybody. There's maybe one there, but that's like literally, in terms of prospects, Gunnar Hoagland's not making you sweat at night at this point,
right?
And also
Austin
part of
Martin.
That is, no, it's certainly not. Simeon Woods, Richardson, you don't miss. And part of it is trusting your system, and I think that they're probably in a better place to trust their system to like be able to backfill for that kind of talent. That is such a big story, the way that the system has gone. And,
for sure.
If we're talking about bringing people back, that probably will. Maybe not in fans' minds, but in the minds of like the decision makers, the turnaround that they've had there probably is a big point in their favor. But also, and it is a big point in the favor of being more willing to give up a Cal Steven or a Johnny King, or I don't want to say Yesevich, but maybe
for the right deal.
It depends on what you're getting. In the right deal, Ari Namala, see you later. Like Jojo Parker is now here from the draft, similarly aged, similar position. I mean, they're all shortstops, so you can't really think of it in terms of like, oh, one of these guys is going to replace Bo. It's like they're both 5 years away, or maybe not quite that long, but from being really contributing, like impactful contributors, it's so far away that they are in a spot where you kind of got to think like, man, your rotation ain't getting any younger.
No, they've forced the hand here. I go in, man. Like, do it. Like,
I'm talking to myself into it too.
Yeah,
Ross, baby,
let's go, buddy.
Go for it. Just sell them all. Don't hug the prospects. Honestly, it would be what a fun move. I like the idea.
Let's do the Tulo David Price weekend all over again, right? A 2 or 3 day stretch like that. Let's get after it. So just sort of in closing on the deadline, sort of prioritize for me. It sounds like though the rotation is not high on your. If you were only going to be able to make a significant add at 2 of the 3 positions, it sounds like you would go lineup first, then bullpen, then rotation, maybe bullpen, then rotation, or lineup, then rotation.
No, I think if you can get a frontline guy in the rotation, that's a game changer. That's a thing that they should absolutely be seeking to do.
Right.
But that's so hard, and the cost is going to be so high that I'm sort of like, I don't think they could put all of their eggs in that basket, and I don't necessarily think that a backhand rotation guy moves the needle a ton.
I'm with you on that.
Though that would probably be smart, considering Lauer and Max Scherzer and the bottom dropping out on those guys. and Alec Manoah not knowing what he's going to
Yeah.
contribute. That's half of the 6 guys you're kind of counting on.
Bit of a mixed bag, even in the early returns on him. He had the one start there or appearance there where it looked like his velocity was great, his command not so much. So
Yeah, exactly. So
who knows, right?
Yeah, you can't expect anything from him. You kind of have to feel, I think, that way about Lauer and Scherzer, but also how many bodies can you bring in? You don't want to. People talk about 6th starter, but you really need as many arms in the bullpen as you can in the modern game. So I as weird as it would be for a guy like Lauer to drop back into the bullpen and be more of a long man, considering he's been like their best starter lately, that might be where that goes. But if a frontline guy is available and a team is like, you can get him without giving up all of your top 5 prospects or something
Sure.
like that, then I think that's a consideration. Or maybe
So it sounds like maybe our difference in opinion on this is like if there's a clear-cut number 1, change the dynamic of your rotation completely without selling the entire farm in that one move, you're open to it. Whereas I'm more, even if it's not that, and you could get another guy to put in as like a 2 level with Barrios, and with Gosman and with what I'm more open to that. It sounds like that's less interesting to you.
I don't know that moves the needle for me too much. It depends on the player, of course.
Sure.
A two is probably better than the guys that they have, but I really, I think that the all-in move is for a real actual ace number 1 if
Right.
you can do it. And if it's a guy that's less than that, then I get a little more queasy about it. I think a couple of a very, very good reliever and a good reliever would go a long way. And then
Probably
you
a
can
righty
sort of
bat.
do that. As weird as it is, because it sort of felt this year like, they've stopped doing the pitching and defense thing, and it's the offense has been a little bit better. Man, you get a lockdown bullpen. You get you shorten those games. You get the defense that this team can already play. You take Anthony Santander out in the 5th inning and gets the Miles Straw in there. Maybe there's a path to do it that way. I'm sure that they're gaming out all these sorts of things.
Sure.
But yeah, offensively, had Davis Schneider not had the month that he's had, maybe I'd be a little more inclined for a right-handed bat. I kind of still think that's got to be on the radar.
Yeah.
How long is
That guy's
whatever
broken my
he's
heart
doing going to
before.
last? And,
Yeah.
there are some guys where situationally late in games, you'd like to have something more on the bench. I think that I don't think that any of this is impossible, but I don't see an everyday player being the thing that they really go for. That would be the lowest on my list, an everyday position player.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure they could use them, but they do just seem to have enough balance, enough depth to mix and match and continue doing it that way. And even though it means I agree with Ross's weird phrasing, compromising the defense probably is a bad choice on their part.
Yeah, it is part of their identity, right? And with this pitching staff, you need the defense behind it, and it has been good, and it hasn't been the story, and that's just the way it goes. When the team does start to hit a little bit better, we get less focused on how much everybody hated the all defense all the time approach, but the defense has still been good, and you're just getting a little more hitting out of it now. And no doubt we'll circle back on this maybe after the deadline or as the season rolls on, man. I always appreciate the time. What's coming up on the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast at thebatflip.ca? What do you got going on here in the next little while?
I'm going to have a mailbag coming out. I think I told people Friday, and that's absolutely not going to happen. But mailbag coming up, a little mid-season kind of look at things. I already got some questions in, and I'm working on them, but I don't think it's I hate to tell people, I don't think that's going to be up when this podcast goes up. And yeah, Blue Jays Happy Hour, we're rolling. We got an extra episode every week now at patreon.com/BJHH. If I may be a pitchman for a second.
Sure.
Having fun. Nick's doing like Jays talk and stuff, which is hilarious to me. So we had some good chats just today about how that's shaping his perspective on. He's like, oh, Vlad, please just get a hit so I don't have to talk to like 9 people about how terrible he is.
I know not everybody loves the guy. Wilner's always been great to me, and to hear some of the stories he's told on you kind of understand why he developed this sometimes justified reputation he did of being a little prickly. If you did that for as long as he did every night hearing some of these calls, you just feel like, I sort of get it, man. You almost become somebody cheering for the team just so the phone in afterwards won't be so brutal.
I can completely understand it. Yeah.
We will link to all of that. Like I said, even if this is one of the things about Stoeten that I'm a paid membership a paid member of the batflip.ca, and it's well worth the money. But he keeps the work free as well. Even if you're not a paid member, you can still stop by and check it out. The work that went into this piece that we referenced earlier on Vlad, and I forget what you titled it, something, 500 million, $500 million at the halfway mark or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. The work that went into that piece alone, and he's got stuff like this every week that comes out. But this one, the could it be this that's causing it? Could it be this is it the new coaching? Is it the bat plane? Is it what? You referenced that there are new statistics that I had never even heard of because we only started tracking them in like mid 2023. The value you get from checking out the batflip.ca and getting a little more information on what you're looking at every night is just fantastic. I would recommend you check out the paid subscription, but even if you can't, it's all there for free as well. So highly recommend you check it out. Man, you learn a lot about the game. So always appreciate your work that comes with this stuff, Stoeten, and always appreciate you making a little time for me, man. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. And that's so kind. Thank you so much. I appreciate the plug and the kind words.
It's time to take a holiday, shut it down and get away. All my friends are ready to play, and we're headed to the lake. Now I know what you came here for, good times and nothing more. We're walking out that door and headed to the lake. It's a talking summer, baby. Sports talk, and we're sipping on craft beer. You can find us chilling on the lakefront. We can take it to the water.
That was great. And I meant what I said at the end. If you haven't had a chance yet, check out the batflip.ca. Honestly, it's not like it's paywalled. I want to be careful how I frame this. You can go and everything he writes is right there at the batflip.ca. And he sort of leaves it open to you, whether you decide it's worth paying for. And lots of us do. There's a huge community of people who, and you get a couple of perks, right? You get to ask questions in the Q&As. There's a couple little things, but all of his actual columns, everything he writes, is available for free. He didn't want to put it all behind a paywall, and I really admire him for that. And he leaves it up to you to decide whether or not it's worth a couple of bucks. If you're not into the writing thing, but you like Stoeten's work, now there's a new way to contribute. He mentioned their new Patreon at patreon.com/BJHH. All of these links will be in the show notes wherever you're hearing us right now at tallcanaudio.com or on the app you're listening through. And you'll get a bonus episode of the podcast and the Blue Jays Happy Hour podcast that already exists. You'll get that one, but without ads. So there's lots there, right? I really like these guys and how hard they're working to kind of give you as much as they can, but also try and make a living out of it, right? And for guys like that, making an effort like that, I think it's well worth supporting. Always appreciate him making some time. We'll wind this one down here. That's going to be it for another week of the Tall Can Audio podcast as these summer sessions roll on. As I said earlier on, Michaela Schreider is here on Monday morning. Later in the week on the 23rd, you're going to hear from Ian Mendez. Also next week, you'll get Steve Bunda. And we'll talk lots of Sens. We'll talk lots of Red Blacks. We'll talk lots of MMA, no doubt, when Bunda's in here. Plenty to get to with 3 great guests all next week. We are not shutting down over the summer. I may have switched locations to a more comfortable spot here at the cottage, but we're not going away. And I appreciate that you have not gone away. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Tall Can Audio Podcast. Subscribe wherever you're hearing us right now. Follow along on social media at Tall Can Audio. My name is Matt Robinson. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. We'll see you Monday.
Summer Sessions.